screens, it's a plot to drop the IQ. Fighting amongst each other over rumors that don't like you. Prefer us trapped in melancholy with the wood ones, the holly suggestions that obliterate to camouflage the folly. Attempted mental robbery, executed sloppily. Hypocrisy, this mockery, and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your wallet.
Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. Hopefully the audio and video are going to hold out for this. Still traveling, just wanted to drop you guys some words on some recent vaccine info and things that are coming to light that are quite interesting given what we've lived through the past 6 years or so. So we'll get into some Fauci stuff, some vaccine stuff, some mRNA stuff, some Pfizer stuff, just making sure I get all the keywords out there so this video can be as suppressed as possible. Let's list them. So I actually, on that, a quick story, I was posting to TikTok little clips from these shows I do. I, make little clips, put them out. TikTok's one of those places where I put those out. And so I put out a one that was, one of the hashtags was school shooting, because there was a principal who stopped the school shooting. I either already shared that with you or I'm going to soon, or maybe you've seen it, either way. So, that went up. And then I also shared one about Pfizer causing brain cancer in women who took Depo-Provera for a year or more. Guess which one got flagged? It wasn't the school shooting one. You think the hashtag school shooter, school shooting, mass shooting, those sorts of things would have gotten tagged for removal? No, it was the Pfizer one. Of course, Big Pharma still has such a big influence, unfortunately, on everything we say and do. So having said that, let's just get right into it here. I, of course, would love for you to go to roguesoul.org. This is where everything I do is. Got 8 books and counting. They're all here for you. The trilogy, if you like fiction, the channeled source message, if you like inspiration. You can get one-on-one sessions with me, whether you want to look into a past life, get some sound healing, get some emotional, mental, spiritual support or teaching. All of that's here to book the one-on-one sessions, no matter where you're at in the world. Spirit knows no time or space, not bound by those things. You go to the shop, you can get my ultra powerful orgone, uplift your space and your spiritual practices. You can even take classes from me in order to become a spiritual healer, step into your spiritual channel and do that work yourself. So it's all here, roguesoul.org. Rogueways.substack.com is where you're going to get the channeled source messages as they come through from the spiritual ancestors, inspirational, beautiful, often warnings, often telling us what is going on in this period of earth changes and what to look forward to, the soul level. That's all here, as well as other articles, offers, event updates, all those sorts of things. So rogueways.substack.com is where you want to go to subscribe, at least for free. And if you want to become a paid supporter, you'll get those channeled messages and you'll support everything I do. Thank you. Thank you. So please go to rogueways.substack.com right now, sign up. You can still get the 7 Flames in Aries New Moon Breakthrough Blessing that I did this last Thursday. I have no words. It was amazing. You can still get that. So check that out too. And you can still be using these coupon codes for all the services that I just told you about that you book at roguesoul.org. There's coupon codes. They're still here on rogueways.substack.com for those who are subscribed. So check those out. Get your discounts. And we'll start here. This is Peter Sweden. As you know, I love him. He's a journalist out of Sweden. And is that right? Or Switzerland? God, I don't know. I think Sweden. Yeah, Sweden. That's why his name's Peter Sweden. So anyways, he says, huge news. A German court has ordered BioNTech. Remember, that's one of the creators of the vaccines alleged that they injected into everyone a few years ago. So German court has ordered BioNTech to hand over internal data on the Pfizer COVID vaccine to a plaintiff claiming to be injured from the injection. This includes, among other things, data on lipid nanoparticle toxicity and DNA contamination. This is massive. It is massive. Those documents get handed over. They're open to discovery. People can access those documents. We can all know a lot more than we did before. We already know, those of us who've been paying attention, that the lipid nanoparticles are part of why everyone's having these turbo cancers, allegedly, and that this DNA contamination was never even supposed to be a thing. Remember, if you remember, at first they told us it was mRNA, which we all learned about in school, is messenger RNA. It's messenger RNA. And we said, well, that's already That's already likely to edit your genome. This is how CRISPR technology and things often work. They said, no, 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 you're crazy, you're stupid, you're conspiracy theorists, you're idiots, listen to your doctors, who have always, by the way, wronged you. They go with whatever the pharma tells them to say over many decades. You can see the list of, you should smoke, it's good for your health, you should take these Oxycontin, they're great for you, you should, and they're all bullshit, right? They're doing their best, maybe, whatever, but they're often on this trend. And then the data comes out, right? So they told us that you're stupid, trust the science. Then we found out, oh, it's actually modified RNA. Oh, it's not even messenger RNA, it's modified RNA. Then we found out it's DNA. It's DNA. Well, what does foreign DNA do in a body? It causes cancer. It causes other breakdowns. It causes you to be ill and sick, or it genetically modifies you, or all of the above, allegedly. Ask your doctor, trust your local scientist, trust big pharma. So this is massive. Lipid nanoparticles, toxicity, DNA contamination coming out because this German court with BioNTech forcing them to release this data because of a plaintiff who is injured. By the way, we know, again, for sure, people are injured. I have plenty of people I know who are injured by these injections. That's not debated, allegedly. And what we don't have is enough people who recognize it. It's fact, it's proven, it's beyond doubt. In fact, we're to the point now where you can say, how many people did this kill? Not just maim, not just destroy their life, not just illness, just dead. It's in the hundreds of thousands at least, if not millions. So huge, it's huge. So we're going to get this data soon. That's good. Another thing out of Peter Sween that's even more interesting to me is that Bayer, remember Bayer was just kind of Tylenol, whatever, that's how everyone knew Bayer, Tylenol. And then they acquired Monsanto not that many years ago. All the stop Monsanto, Monsatan, lefties used to be people who cared about that. That all stopped because technically Monsanto's gone. Well, it's not gone, it's just Bayer now, but no one cares about Bayer. Bayer has such a nice name, nobody's attributing all this chaos to them. So everybody loves Bayer, nobody cares about Monsanto anymore. That problem is dead because of Bayer acquiring Monsanto. Well, Bayer is Monsanto and more now, Agra and Pharma, right? Just the worst marriage of Satan, right? So Bayer is suing Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson, those three other producers of these injections. Bayer is suing all of them. Why would Bayer sue them? Well, they claim that the vaccine makers infringed on a patent by Monsanto, who was acquired by Bayer, from the 80s. So this Monsanto had a patent from the 80s, and they're saying these vaccine makers infringed on this patent. What was the patent? It was to stabilize mRNA in genetically modified crops. Yes, you're hearing that correctly. It was to make it so that the genetically modified crops kept that genomic insertion, deletion, that change in their genome, that they didn't reject it and go back to their original, divine plan that they stuck instead with this new updated GMO version of their genes. That patent was used by Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson. These corporate interests do not mess around. They wouldn't sue those three unless they knew, A, they had actually stolen that patent, and B, that they could have a quite likely chance of winning back their damages. So it's telling the rest of us all we need to know. Yes, it was genetically modifying us all along, and you had to work to get our bodies to accept it. What has changed? What did you do to us? It's just like the fallout from this can't be overstated. And what's crazy is people still don't know or care. You guys do. I do. But I'm at like a convention right now with a bunch of normies who, if I told them this, they'd call me a Nazi or like a MAGA or something, punch me in the face. It's like you can't get through to these people. So yeah, Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, these injections, they've allegedly used a technique to cause genetic modification to stick, to not be rejected by a body. That's insane. One of the first comments here says, does Big Pharma not see any difference between humans and corn? No, they don't. No, you're, to them, not all, but to the biggest psychopaths in the world, you're nothing. I mean, that's what a psychopath is someone who doesn't honor humanity, doesn't have compassion, doesn't feel anything about any of this, right? It's all an ends to a mean. It's all what's the final outcome. We need those people in some positions, like, at the heads of our military, maybe, or, in some other situations. And situations like this, you can hope that they're using their psychopathy for good, but oh my God, I doubt it. I doubt they did a worldwide campaign to inject all these things just on a lark, right? Or just on like this, oh no, it'll be good for them. They just don't know it. No, I'm pretty sure it'll make us more slavish, more controllable, more docile, more sick longer, so that we're bigger payoffs to them, right? Those are the things that they would want from us, make us stupider. We already saw that there's allegedly a 20-point reduction in IQ average. That's insane. That's the difference between mediocre and genius. So it's insane. It's a huge number. It's a standard deviation and more. So crazy, crazy things going on in this area. Also in China, this is again from Jennifer Zhang, who I love on Twitter, Inconvenient Truths. She says Chinese young people are dying in large numbers and, quote, no ashes wanted. So there's this whole thing in funeral homes where they can look and see what are the ages of the people who are, being cremated or whatever. And then how many of them, nobody wants their ashes? Why are these young people, but nobody cares about them? Where are they from? Who are they? Right? She says on April 15th, a mainland Chinese netizen took a shocking photo at a funeral home. The deceased were all young people aged 24 to 30. Moreover, most of the remarks noted no ashes wanted. 24, who is 24 to 30 and has no one who loves them? It's very confusing. Or I'm like, are these all prisoners? Are they purging people? And so no ashes wanted because maybe nobody even knows that they're dead now? In China, you don't know. China's crazy. China doesn't care. China is the most psychopathic of nations on this earth. So another netizen, she said, posted photos in the comment section from different funeral homes showing that among dozens of deceased, there's only one 98-year-old. The rest were 20 to 70 years old, with the largest number being 30 to 50. She said, what's the reason behind this terrifying phenomenon? What exactly has happened in China in recent years? And I don't know if she's hinting at it and doesn't want to say it, but my first thought was these injections, right? Maybe a lot of older people didn't get it because they were thinking maybe even positively, like, oh, let the youth have it, it'll protect them or something. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's by the time you're that old, your body's like, I don't accept this stuff, and it just like keeps trucking. I don't know. But we've seen this in young people. There's been huge explosions in turbo cancers and the like. So maybe that's why all these people in China are dying. But these numbers are crazy. The actuarial reports out of the US and some of the Western nations are also showing these huge increases in these younger people dying. And apparently in China, we see it too. So pretty concerning, pretty interesting. And so this all reminded me, Fauci et al., they're not out of the woods yet. We haven't seen them. We haven't heard from them in years. Some people think they've been whisked off. They've been disappeared. I always joke to the private continent that's in the middle of the Pacific that no one can see or know about. Where Tupac and Biggie are and all those, maybe that's what's happened to them. Maybe they just dropped out of the public light. I remember that Trump and the federal government took away Fauci and some of their security details. So they have a good reason to want to stay hidden, I would think. So that might be all there is to it. But I remember we have all these lawsuits, actually. And they're really interesting and they're really important. Here's a summary from AI of where we're at now, because this has been ongoing for a few years. It says, as of early 2026, a coalition of 17 Republican state attorney generals is actively investigating Dr. Anthony Fauci, focusing on his COVID-19 pandemic response, potential mismanagement of National Institutes of Health funding, and his role in suppressing the lab leak hypothesis. These are all things we know he did, basically. And so these 17 states, it's a lot of states. Right? It's no 50 states, but it's 17 out of 50 is a pretty high number. This is where we have Republican leadership in general, Republican populace in general, and also an attorney general who's worth his salt. So it says, led by a South Carolina Attorney General Ellen Wilson, this coalition is pursuing accountability despite the preemptive federal pardon issued to Fauci by President Biden in late 2024. Remember that pardon took place, but they argue the pardon doesn't protect him from state level legal action, and they're right. It also is argued that the auto pen can't sign for him. And so that may be, discounted anyway. It's all up to courts and who thinks what's right and wrong. And, maybe justice will prevail. And so they're using findings from the House U.S. Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic as a basics to determine if he violated state laws, because again, this is at the state level. They're challenging the pardon. They're also focusing on the origins and the funding around his NIH stuff, his gain of process or gain of function research, and the Wuhan connection. And so they are using evidence that federal investigations have found, but that they can't really go forward with because of the pardon, or not as easily as at the state level. So it's not dead. I know people like to be very black-pilled, very doom porn about it and be like, oh, nobody's ever going to happen, nothing ever happened. And maybe, there's like history tells us that maybe we shouldn't expect too much. But at the same time, having this 17-state coalition, it's still in action, they're still at it, and they're not done yet. You can have some hope in that if you want to. I haven't cast it out as impossible yet. And so they've got a lot of Freedom of Information Acts still going through actively. Anthony Fauci, Francis Collins, EcoHealth Alliance, and more are all indicated in this, especially focusing on the social media censorship that happened. And also this contract found by Doge for Anthony Fauci and his work for $168,000. Sounds like small beans to me, but all of this is included. So we can hope. We can see that maybe something comes of this. Hope ideally that pardon was a low blow. It was not appropriate and is a misuse and abuse of power. It's very corrupt. And we have to hold someone accountable for this, you would hope. But it's kind of funny that at that highest level of the corporate interaction, that Bayer is suing Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson. Maybe that's the best justice we can hope for, because at the corporate level, like, they don't have as many, there's no pardons. There's no way out of that. So I guess it's something, right? I guess it's something. And I just wanted to remind you before we go that if they can't get the vaccines in you by consent, or by tricking you into a fake version of consent, or by threatening to take your children, your job, your home, your livelihood, and all those things from you, they might just blow dart vaccinate you. Remember, this is in Egypt, where I'll admit they've got a hell of a lot of dogs. Everywhere in the world that is impoverished has a hell of a lot of dogs running around, including our reservations here in the US. So health workers, they say in Egypt, include teams from the Egyptian Society for Mercy to Animals. They're using blow dart vaccine delivery to protect street dogs from rabies. And we've talked about this before, not in terms of Egypt and their rabies blow darts, but I remember talking to you guys about them flying in the US in their helicopters, finding wild populations of deer and blow dart vaccinating them. So just saying, we've also seen those tiny little robots, tiny as a mosquito, that have an injection payload in them as well too. So I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to say these people are psychopaths. They will genetically modify you at will. They don't have any compunction about it. They don't have any remorse. They still sleep at night. They don't have compassion, and they've got many modalities in order to try to get these vaccines in you. We can hope that there might be some justice at the corporate level, at the maybe state level against some of these people. But ideally, you can't actually always count on any of those things. You have to count on yourself. You have to have your discernment intact. And unfortunately, we've got hordes and hordes of people who are either unthinking entirely, they're somewhat thinking, but they're very likely to cow to any sort of authority, or they're emotionally damaged to such an extent that they will cow to any sort of pressure or bullying. And the powers that ought not be know that. So you and I have to do the best job we can to stay discerning, to reach the people who we can, who are still able and capable of thinking or healing enough to step into their sovereignty, because it's the only thing that's ever going to work in the end. Not the courts, not the Bayer suing Pfizer, not Fauci somehow being brought to justice, but just person-to-person awareness and intelligence. And so until we can help create more and more of that with one another, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first. Mwah.
To them screens, it's a plot to drop the IQ. Fighting amongst each other over rumors that don't like like you. Prefer us trapped in melancholy with the wood ones, a holly. Suggestions that obliterate to camouflage the folly. Attempted mental robbery, executed sloppily. The hypocrisy, this mockery, and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your wallet.